Hello everyone. Today I would like to share with you our research findings on the topic of online price discrimination. So we got our inspiration from the CBC Marketplace study, and you can find the full article in the link here. First, let's start with the definition. So what is online price discrimination? Essentially, it's charging consumers different prices for the same product or service. A simple example of price discrimination that all of us are aware is ladies' night at a bar. It's when girls walk in a bar for free and guys have to pay the cover to walk in and socialize. This is a great example of price discrimination based on gender. So now that you know what price discrimination is, let's see how companies do it online. So companies use cookies. All your information gets recorded. Companies track your buying behavior, so it's like whether you shop on sale or regular price items. How many websites did you check for the same product? So how desperate you are and how often do you check, as well as your location. And here are the example of some companies that were found using price discrimination. So from CBC Marketplace study, we know that Expedia and Air Canada and Hotels.com uses it. Other studies indicated that Amazon and Staples price discriminate. With Staples, the price discrimination is really interesting. Is that Staples charges different prices depending on your location and proximity to a competitor's location. So if you were to mobile shop close to Office Max and on sale on Staples website, you're likely to get a better deal because you're close to Office Max. After we conducted literature review, we learned that the price discrimination is not a novel concept. Nowadays, due to advanced technology, it's just much easier for companies to do it. And very many people are unaware of this concept. However, some people know that they're being taken advantage of, but they're just not willing to do anything to avoid it. Going back to CBC Marketplace study, it looked at 3 different people with completely different shopping habits. So one person who shops online regularly, one person who shops online sometimes, and a person who doesn't shop online at all. So they got them in the same room at the same time and tasked them with look at the exact same hotel room on the same website. Not only the price were different among all of them, it was also different between incognito tab and regular browser, as well as sometimes on mobile devices. So what's missing here? The studies were able to identify that the practice exists, that there are so many ways companies can price discriminate online, but really lack the information on consumer reaction to price discrimination. And this is where we step in. So we see that there is a clear gap in the knowledge that exists around consumer behavior aspect of price discrimination. And the objective of our research is to fill that gap. In particular, we aim to find out whether the awareness of price discrimination affects the online buying behavior. Our null hypothesis states the knowledge of price discrimination does not have any effect on online buying behavior of George Brown community. If this hypothesis is confirmed, it would mean the consumers, even being aware that online retailers charging them different prices for the same product, will not take any action to change or adjust their buying behavior to avoid price discriminations. You can also see our 2 alternative hypotheses over here. Now about the methodology. We have created a 17-question survey using Google Forms, and we have distributed via email and social media to George Brown College students. We use 10-point scales, some multiple choice questions, and some scenario questions to get a well-rounded results on the topic. The reason we chose to ask this question with this scale was so our results could be better analyzed towards our hypothesis. We chose these types of questions to see how much of our sample size are participating in online buying and to see their opinions on price discriminations. We also chose to add in scenario type question to get a better understanding of how our sample size consumers think when they're put in a specific situation in regards to the topic. Now let's see what we got. So we had a total of 52 participants from George Brown College, with the majority of them being 18 to 24 years old. Some interesting points that we found is that majority of the sample were not aware of the concept of price discrimination, and only 3 people out of 22 participants were fully aware of the concept. In addition, 71% didn't know that incognito tab mode can be used to avoid price discrimination. And when the following question asked the likeliness of using incognito tab while browsing, still 60% were not likely to use incognito tab, even after they were just told that it could help avoid price discrimination. Contradicting the answer that I just mentioned, another question of how likely you to take steps to lower Expedia's ability to identify you. Out of 10-point scale, 7.3% was the average. So the majority of people will likely to try to lower the Expedia's ability to identify them. Looking at figure 1, we can see that participants are very inclined to online purchasing of flights, accommodation, food, and ground transportation. Not so much for tours, but I can see why. Because some people prefer to book it through the tour guide rather than online. In figure 2, will show us the percentage of savings that makes incognito tab valuable. So most participants, it's this range over here, will only find incognito tab valuable when they are saving over 10%. In general, incognito mode savings are less than 10%, which means that over the half of a sample will not likely use the tab, as they just simply don't see the benefit. Now let's take a look at scenario questions. In the scenario 1, knowing that website uses price discrimination, responders are agreeing to give away their information, hoping to score a great deal in the future. In the scenario 2, which is a similar scenario, but with a different question, we wanted to see if consumers will avoid websites with price discriminations. As results show, consumers care very little about the concept or morality behind it, because 82.7% will book on the website regardless of price discrimination, as long as they get the better deal. Overall, we've decided that we will accept our null hypothesis and reject the alternatives presented. Circling back to our introduction and literature review, we can say that while CBC Marketplace study participants found that online price discrimination is unfair practice, only one of our participants agree with them. Our results suggest that buying behavior is not guided by morality. Consumers don't really care if their personal browsing information is taken advantage of. Most of them would even give it away hoping to get a better deal. So online travel agencies can sleep safe and sound knowing that the price discrimination most likely will not be avoided. Additionally, we found that the concept of price discrimination is closely related to the willingness to pay. A study by Bowen and McCain in 2015 found that millennials exhibit the highest willingness to pay for business and leisure accommodation out of all the preceding generations. And as millennials take up the majority of our study, the high tendency towards online booking of hospitality services and low sensitivity to price discrimination present hospitality businesses with an amazing opportunity. You might be wondering why there is a Netflix logo down here, but Benjamin Schiller, an assistant professor of economics in Prezi University, he published a study about Netflix where he calculated the potential profits for the company in the scenario of flexible pricing. So we all know that Netflix charges everybody the same price, but what if they price discriminated? So Netflix could have boosted their profit by 8 million in 2006 and by 23 million in 2012 by selling the same service to different people at different prices. So similarly, knowing that millennial consumers are willing to give away their browsing information to get a better deal, small and big hospitality businesses can utilize the online price discrimination to increase their profits directly through their website without getting involved with OTAs and paying the commission. We did encounter some limitations, however. The main concern was the sample size. Since our survey was sent to George Blount College via email, as well as posted on Facebook page and groups, we only got 52 responders. And this number of people gave us the basis for concluding the research. However, for the outcome to be more reliable, it is recommended that we gather a larger amount of data. The variety of sample. Our survey was conducted at the George Brown College, so there is a risk that the gathered data would be monotonous, since most college students have the same demographics, and for the purpose of this research, more variety of the sample is recommended. We used 10-point scale questions, and in the process of analyzing data, we found that proposed scales were just simply too broad, and we got a lot of 3s and 5s and 2s that we couldn't really use, and it didn't give us exact answers. So for better results, we have combined answers to a 5-point scale, and in the future, we will use the same 7-point scale for optimal results. The last one is the accurateness of questions. So we noticed that some of our questions are not very accurate. For instance, we have questions that would ask how much money do you spend monthly on food delivery or Uber, taxi, and Lyft. While monthly amount of money makes sense for that specific question, we also asked the same scenario for flights and travel accommodation. And now that after analyzing data, we understand that it might not necessarily make sense to ask in a monthly matter. Maybe we should have switched to a yearly scale instead. To conclude our presentation, we would like to share some tips on how to fight back against price discrimination that was kindly provided by CBC Marketplace study. So as mentioned in the survey, you could shop incognito, you could check your phone, but the most useful I found is to abandon your cart. I've actually tried it personally and it works. You fill your cart with whatever clothes you want of the same sizes and just exit the page and don't look at it that day. Next day, I did it with Abercrombie, so next day they sent me a coupon. So I proceed, as I get discount and proceed with my cart and with my purchase. Thank you very much. We hope that you find this presentation informative and interesting.